Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining in here. It's just a minute or two after 8 o'clock. Get set up on here, make sure I can see the chat, make sure everybody's able to join in and log in here. I appreciate everybody being here on a Monday night. I'm sure it's a beautiful night out, so I'm sure there's lots of other things you could be doing, and you chose to be here to learn about CBD. So excited that each of you are here. And I know you guys are all missing Jody, thinking she's not on here. Don't worry, she is. There's just a lot going on my computer, so she's going to be on her computer. So she will be joining us too, and she'll be helping kind of with the chat and the comments and that kind of stuff as we go through this, because looking forward to lots of dialogue in the chat. If you don't know where the chat is on Zoom, if you're on a computer, it's really easy. You just go down to and hover your mouse over the bottom, and there will be a chat down there. If you're on your phone, you may have to swipe. It's different on whether you're on an Android or iPhone, but you might have to swipe left or right to find that chat feature if you're tuning in on your phone. But we will be using that. In fact, Jody just posted something for you guys so you can see where that is. We'd love to have you guys chime in, tell us who you are and where you're joining from, so just so we can see. It's a lot better when I do a class knowing that there's other people at the other end of this, and not just me speaking to a recording and not having real people there. So putting your info, introducing yourself quickly with who you are and where you're from in the chat helps me out, because it makes me connect with real people on the other end. So as you guys are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and dig in and get started. If you don't know me, my name is Brian McKenna. I like to describe myself as the engineer turned natural health advocate. I'm the co-founder of Wise House Oils along with my wife, Jody. And we started Wise House Oils with the goal of empowering people to make informed decisions about their health and wellness. That's what we're all about. So we love educating people. We love connecting people with options for better health. And that's what we are all about, is giving you guys and empowering you with information and with choices for how you can have better health. And so when it comes to CBD, we're a little newer at this. We've been a major essential oil users, I would say, for like 15 plus years. It's been a huge part of our life. It's literally changed and transformed our entire life. But CBD is a little newer. We've been using CBD for just a little over a year. And I got started with CBD because of the fact that I like to say that my body has a lot of wear and tear on it. I played college football. I was into endurance sports. And then I sat at a desk all day for years in my previous job. And believe it or not, I think that sitting at the desk all the time may have been the hardest thing on me. But that lifestyle, both the sports and the inactivity, the combination of both of those definitely took a toll on me. About 2 years ago, I ruptured a disc in my back. And if you've ever ruptured a disc in your back, you know how awful that is. It was a long road to recovery. I mean, there was surgical options and things like that. Again, we're focused on providing options for natural health and wellness. And so there just looked to me to be too many risks for the type of rupture that I had with doing anything surgical. And so I really pursued healing that naturally. And after about a year, I made a lot of progress, but it still wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. And so I went to a stem cell therapy specialist and had a stem cell procedure done on my back, which has made a big difference there. It hasn't seen, I had other areas done. I had a shoulder done, all that at the same time, my hands. Because again, like I said, I've got a lot of wear and tear. Didn't see a huge difference with the stem cells everywhere, but the back, I definitely made a difference. But what the doctor who did my stem cell therapy said is, he's like, I don't want you using any over-the-counter pain medications or anything like that, because stem cells, the way they work is that they actually induce inflammation, right? So all these other options for pain reliever, because it is a painful procedure to have done, but all those involve, all those over-the-counters involve some kind of anti-inflammatory. And as a result, that would actually inhibit the stem cells. We said that the only option, your only thing I want you using for pain management following this procedure is CBD. And so that got me curious and looking into it. It'd already been on my radar a little bit. And so I had had already been doing a little bit of research on it, but that really, when I found out that that's what my game plan was going to be after this procedure, that's what really launched me into doing a lot of research, figuring out how it works, why it works, is it safe to use, what are the potential side effects of it, all those kinds of things. And so that's when I really started using it. It was in the lead up to that, and I've seen amazing results from using the CBD. And we've used them for everybody in our family, and as well as even for our dog has used CBD at times. So I'm coming from a place of just being somebody who's done my own research on it and being somebody that's used it myself. I am not a healthcare professional anyway. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. None of that. So you all need to do your own research and your own fact checking on this. But I'm going to present to you what I've done, the research I've gathered, and the experience I've had, and then use that for you guys, allow you guys to use that as a springboard to do your own research and to further dig into this. And admittedly, I approached this whole thing with a small bit of skepticism. I was really familiar with essential oils. I approached those initially with some skepticism. I'm beginning to realize that engineers in general, we approach everything with a healthy dose of skepticism, and that's a good thing. But it also, our trademark is also that when once we're curious about something, we dig into it, we do the research, we look at it objectively, and so that's the place where I'm coming from. Is having looked at this objectively, I really think that this is a great tool that everybody needs to have in their health and wellness toolbox. So with that, that's the lead in and the intro to this, and what I want you guys to understand in terms of the place where I'm coming from with this. And so with that, I want to just launch in and start answering the most common questions I get when it comes to CBD, because a lot of people have the same questions. They have questions like, well, what is CBD? I don't even know what that means. I just know those initials. And, if we did a man on the street poll, 90% of people couldn't even answer the question of what that acronym stands for. And that's okay. We're going to talk about that. But we're also going to look at, well, how does CBD work? What is the science behind it? And how and why does this oil or this balm or whatever format you get it in, how does it even work to help me out? We're going to look at what is the difference between CBD and THC, because a lot of people get concerned, like, well, if I take CBD, am I going to get high, or am I going to, show up? Am I going to have the negative side effects of THC in association with that? So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the history of it, because it's really important to understand. A lot of people are like, well, why have I only heard about this in the last couple of years? And so we're going to talk about the history and why it is that you've only heard about it in the last couple of years. It's not because it wasn't a viable option, it wasn't a good thing to use. It's all about the regulatory system and what regulators have allowed to be used. And so we'll talk about that in the history. We'll talk about, well, what are the benefits then? If it's got this long history, what are the benefits for CBD? We're going to talk about the various forms of CBD that are out there on the market, how you can get those and how you can administer CBD and the different pathways for that. We're going to talk about then how you can specifically get started. And I don't want to just talk about a tool and then leave you wondering, well, how do I even get my hands on this stuff? So we'll talk about that too at the end. So let's launch into the first question though, which is, what is CBD? So CBD simply stands for cannabidiol. They simply pulled out the consonants, the C, the B, and the D out of the word cannabidiol. And it's because nobody really wants to pronounce the word cannabidiol, right? Unless you get really good at it. And then it's fun to say. But most people would rather come up with that short acronym of CBD, right? So that's what we're going to refer to it as, is CBD. But just remember that it stands for cannabidiol. And a little more on that about what a cannabidiol is in a moment in our next question. But CBD is derived from the hemp plant, which is the genus and species of that plant is Cannabis sativa. So sometimes it's referred to as cannabis plants, sometimes it's referred to as hemp plants, but just know that those are synonymous names essentially. Cannabis and hemp are the same thing. Hemp is the more common term. Cannabis is a genus of plants. There's several plants that belong to that same genus of cannabis plants. And CBD, probably the most interesting thing to take away from this is because this leads right into our next question about how it works, is CBD is part of the endocannabinoid system. The endo simply meaning internal, inside our body, cannabinoid system. Okay, so we're going to talk about that because that's a really big word, and I need a whole nother question to unpack what that endocannabinoid system is, and that's how we understand how this actually works on our own body. And so with that, let's take a look at the next question, which is, how does CBD work? And so, like I said, to answer that question, we really need to answer that question with a question. The question is, what is the endocannabinoid system? It works. The short answer is that CBD works by interacting with our own internal endocannabinoid system. But how does it do that? And what is the endocannabinoid system? Well, endocannabinoid, we're going to abbreviate that as ECS, because you guys get really tired of listening to me say endocannabinoid over and over again. So the ECS is the abbreviation for the endocannabinoid system. And what the ECS is, it's a really complex cell signaling system, and it helps your body to regulate sleep, to regulate your mood and appetite, your memory. It affects how your body reacts with inflammation, how it perceives pain, how it affects how your body's reproductive systems, organs run, and much more. It's a very complex part of your body, but it's active in your body all the time. So the ECS, it really consists of 3 different parts, okay? And there's what we refer to as the endocannabinoids. That's like CBD is a type of endocannabinoid, and it has receptors and it has enzymes. And here's how those three things work. The endocannabinoids are basically like the keys of the endocannabinoid system, or the ECS. So those endocannabinoids, like CBD, are like keys that fit into the receptor sites, which is the second part of that. And so those endocannabinoids bind with the receptors in the ECS, and they do that in order to send a signal back to your brain. And so CBD and THC alike, we're going to talk about the differences between those later, but both CBD and THC are types of endocannabinoids that your body can use to fill those receptor sites, or they're both keys that can be used to unlock those locks, which are the receptor sites in the ECS. Now, the receptors are embedded in the cell membranes throughout your body, and they receive those signals from the endocannabinoids that bind with them. And there are 2 types of receptors, what we refer to as CB1 and CB2 receptors. And so the CB1 receptors are located throughout your body. As you can see, both of them are, both the green CB2 and the orange CB1 receptor sites are located throughout your body, but the CB1 receptors are more predominantly present in the nervous system, the connective tissues, the glands, and the organs, whereas the CB2 receptors are predominantly found in the immune system and its associated structures. And so depending on which one of those you're trying to target might depend on how you administer the CBD. But just important to know that these endocannabinoids, they will bind with both the CB1 and those CB2 receptors. And it's just that CB1 receptors affect certain functions of the body, and CB2 receptors affect other functions in the body. So return to that last slide there, because we have a couple more things I wanted to touch on there. And that is that the last part of the endocannabinoid system I mentioned was the enzymes. And so they're basically the job. If the endocannabinoids are the key and the receptors are the locks, the enzymes are basically the janitors that come along and clean up. When somebody leaves their key in the lock, they come along and clean up those receptor sites and remove the keys from them after they've served their purpose, so that the system can then can reboot basically and bind with new endocannabinoids and new receptors. So that's the last part of it, is those enzymes, and that's their job, is to clean it up and return it back to its previous condition. And so to sum up the question of what the endocannabinoid system is, we have to realize that it's essentially just a complex messaging system. But here's that helps your body achieve homeostasis or balance. But here's the important thing to know, is that everybody has an endocannabinoid system. Everybody has an ECS. In fact, not even just humans, but this is something that's the system that's common to all mammals that have this ECS. And your body has been naturally, whether you knew it or not, has been naturally producing endocannabinoids to bind with those receptor sites. Your body wants to produce those cannabinoids to bind to those receptor sites, but sometimes our bodies need a little more help, and we have to supplement that system with external cannabinoids like CBD and like THC would do, is external cannabinoids. So everybody has an ECS, whether you know it or not, and it's been working and it's been functioning. But the whole point of it, and this is your memory thing to help you remember it, is that it's really just a cell messaging system that it's meant to create balance in your body. So if your endocannabinoid system isn't functioning optimally, then your body is going to be out of balance. Some system in your body, whether it's your digestive system, whether it's your pain perception, whether it's your cognitive function, whatever it is, if your endocannabinoid system or ECS isn't in balance, then you're going to see problems as a result of that. And so sometimes it's necessary to supplement that ECS with external cannabinoids like CBD. So that takes us to our next question, and that is, what is the difference between CBD and THC? Because I talked about both of those in terms of their ability to bind with the receptor sites and their ability to interact with our ECS. So what's the difference then, and why would I choose one over the other? What's the difference? Well, the difference between CBD and THC, let's start with what they have in common. Both CBD and THC are derived from cannabis plants. Both of those interact with our ECS. They both have the ability to bind with the receptor sites in our ECS. The difference is that, and the primary difference is that CBD comes from hemp plants and it's not psychotropic. Okay, so there's no effects of getting high or anything like that that comes with CBD. Whereas THC comes, instead of from hemp plants, it comes from a specific type of cannabis plant known as the marijuana plant, and does produce psychotropic effects. So some people get confused. Well, you said earlier that hemp and cannabis is synonymous, and what's the difference between marijuana plant and a hemp plant and a cannabis plant? So let's take a look at that on this handy dandy, very snazzy Venn diagram. Anytime you're comparing something, you've got to have the colorful Venn diagram there to show that off, right? So CBD on the left there in the green, THC on the right in the orange. So this is just a little more detailed look at what I talked about earlier. So first of all, the names. CBD, of course, stands for, as we talked about earlier, stands for cannabidiol. THC stands for the chemical name tetrahydrocannabinol. Okay, and as we already said, CBD is non-psychotropic, meaning there's no effects of getting high or anything like that, whereas THC is going to produce psychotropic effects based upon the way it binds with those receptor sites in the ECS. So CBD on the left there, it's a key constituent in the hemp plant, or the cannabis sativa, and the SSP there means subspecies sativa, whereas marijuana actually comes from the marijuana plant, which is the same genus and species. Both of them come from the plant Cannabis sativa, but it's been labeled as a subspecies of that, and it's a subspecies indica. And so those two plants, while very similarly related genetically, are slightly different. And the way that you can tell the difference, the way they can test and tell the difference, is based on THC content. The marijuana plant, or the Cannabis sativa subspecies indica, is any plant that has more than 0.3% THC in it. Whereas a hemp plant is any plant that has less than 0.3% THC content in it. And there's just a very, very subtle genetic difference between those two that's small enough that they're considered subspecies of that same Cannabis sativa genus and species. So the similarities here, the overlap here, is that they're both cannabis derived, because both the marijuana plant and the hemp plant would be considered cannabis plants. They're under that same genus. Both of those interact with CB1 and CB2 receptor sites. And they both have actually the exact same chemical structure. It's the same chemical, structure. It's just that they're organized a little different. So they're both consist of 21 carbon atoms, 30 hydrogen atoms, and 2 oxygen atoms. And I realize this may be taking some of you back to chemistry that you hope to never repeat again. Don't worry, this will be brief, so just hang with me for a second. While they're made up of the exact same number of atoms, the way that they're arranged is a little bit different. So there's a depiction of how on the top there, how the CBD plant, the CBD is organized chemically, and on the bottom, how the THC is organized chemically and molecularly. There's just that subtle difference on it, but it's on that subtle difference is what totally affects what receptors they bind with and how they bind with those receptor sites. And as a result of that very, very subtle chemical difference, they affect us totally different. So while they both produce some of the beneficial properties of helping to balance and create homeostasis in the ECS, CBD does that without any of the potential psychotropic effects, whereas THC, we know, has those psychotropic effects that come with it. So now that I've explained some of those similarities, you can see why, because of how similar they are, even at the molecular level and the genetic level of the cannabis plant and the subspecies that result from those, you can see why there's been this historical confusion about the two. And so as a result of that historical confusion, there's been a lot of regulatory confusion about CBD and how it should be regulated in terms of whether it should be classified as a drug and so on. And so that's what we're going to look at with our next question: is the history. What is the history of cannabis? Most people think it's something that's just come around recently because it's not something that we hear a lot about because of the way it's been associated with the marijuana plant. But the history of cannabis is this: that hemp has been grown for a very, very long time. And it's been grown from everything and used for everything from cloth and paper. It's been used to create lamp fuels, rope, industrial fiber. It's been used to create food and even body care products. There's lots of evidence out there that both the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Chinese cultivated and used hemp plants thousands of years ago. So it's nothing new. It's not some new discovery of plant. It's been around for thousands of years and has been used heavily by cultures for thousands of years. In fact, even in our own country and in U.S. history, it was an important part of the economy in the early United States. Both President Washington and President Jefferson grew hemp on their plantations, and it was widely grown in the United States up through about the mid-20th century. And around that time, the Controlled Substance Act of 1970 erroneously classified hemp as a Schedule I drug, which created very, very strict regulations for its use and its cultivation, even whether it could be grown. And that, as a result, that erroneous classification as a Schedule I drug basically just completely limited the use of hemp, not just marijuana, but hemp and CBD were erroneously classified as a part of that. And so it was regulated very strictly by the federal government. But in 2018, Congress passed the Agriculture Improvement Act, aka the 2018 Farm Bill, and that differentiated between marijuana and CBD and legalized hemp in the CBD form of hemp, not marijuana. So marijuana at the federal level is still considered a controlled substance under that as a Schedule I drug, even though a lot of states have gone to legalizing marijuana. But across the board, in all 50 states and at the federal level, the hemp plant and the CBD derived from the hemp plant is considered to be non-regulated as a drug. It's not considered a drug anymore. It's simply considered a dietary supplement, as it's in terms of how the FDA views hemp and CBD now, as after that 2018 Farm Bill. So, like I said, all states right now, 50 states have all legalized hemp as a product to be used in terms of CBD. But there's only a few states that have gone so far as to legalize that THC, even though, like I said, still regulated at the federal level as a Schedule I drug for any marijuana, including more than that 0.3% THC. So what are the benefits? This is usually the biggest one. Like, okay, yeah, history, chemistry. I don't really care about any of that. Just tell me, what can I use it for? What is CBD good for? But remember, I want you to make informed decisions. So I want you to understand the history. I want you to understand a little bit about the chemistry, even if you can't repeat that chemical formula. At least understand the similarities and the differences and how it works on your system. So what are the benefits of CBD? Well, I would love to share every single success story that's out there. But here's the deal. Because it is listed as a supplement, the FDA does consider to have jurisdiction to regulate the specific claims that I can make because of the fact that I represent a company that sells CBD. So I'm limited in terms of the specific claims that I can make. I will say this though, the FDA has already approved a purified form of CBD as a specific drug treatment for a couple of different forms of epilepsy, where the main chemical ingredient of the drug is pure CBD. And so I think we're going to see a lot more approvals for other very specific conditions in the future coming down, being permitted by the FDA to label those that you can actually make claims about the benefit of CBD for these specific things. But the reality is, at this point, we just can't share all the details about that. But here's what I can say is that anything that the endocannabinoid system, the ECS, does and regulate in your body, we talked about those, right? The ECS regulates pain perception. It regulates your ability to sleep. It regulates your digestion. It regulates your nervous system. all those things that the ECS helps to bring into balance, it stands to reason that if you supplement that well, that ECS is going to help your body regulate those systems better, right? So anything that the ECS can do, CBD can help your body do that by supplementing that. And the other thing I want to point out is the amount of research going on this. Even though the FDA regulates what we're allowed, the claims, the specific claims about curing and diagnosing and treating disease, we want to be clear that there's a ton of research going on. So again, don't take my word for it. Go do your own research. A great source of information I love to turn to is a site called PubMed. You can Google that and find that. Here is a listing of all the research articles posted about CBD on PubMed by year. So you can see that in the last couple of years, there's been 700 to 800 articles a year published in medical journals relating to the benefits of CBD. So while I can't get into all the details of that on the Zoom call, if you have something that you're curious about, do your own research and dig in. I guarantee you, there's a research paper out there showing what actual studies done on how CBD affects that particular system of your body. But just know that the ECS covers a very, very broad spectrum of functions in your body. And if you supplement the ECS well and by providing it good CBD, it stands to reason that that system of your body is going to function better and you're going to function better as a person. So with that, let's get to our next question. And that is, tell me about the different forms, right? Because you can go to so many different places right now and find CBD. Like you can go to the gas station and find CBD. You can go to Target and all the big box stores. There's so many places right now where you can find CBD on the shelf. So what's the difference? Because they vary wildly in price, and I promise you they vary wildly in their effectiveness as well. So let's talk about what are the main categories of CBD that's out there available on the market. Well, it breaks down to 4 main categories and types of CBD that's out there in the market. There's what we refer to as a full spectrum CBD. There's a broad spectrum CBD. There's isolate CBD, and then there's smart spectrum CBD. So before we jump into looking at the individual differences between each of those 4 CBDs that are on the market, I want to talk about how CBD works and the way it's grown. It's a very, very fast growing plant. It grows 6 to 8 feet tall in a single season, and then they harvest the entire plant and replant it, and it grows 6 to 8 feet tall the next year. We actually have, believe it or not, we have a hemp field less than a mile from our house where just this massive field where they're growing hemp, and it grows like crazy. It looks like a weed. It grows like a weed in terms of how fast it grows. And it has deep roots that do an excellent, excellent job of extracting lots of bad things from the soil. In fact, it's been used to clean up chemically contaminated sites because CBD does an amazing job of extracting toxins such as heavy metals and other chemicals, extracting them out of the soil through the root system and hiding them essentially in the plant. So that's really great news if you've got contaminated soil that you're trying to clean up. It's not so great news if you're taking hemp and CBD from a source where you don't know what was in the soil before they planted those hemp plants. For example, I know the field where this hemp is planted, the year before that, there was corn and soybeans on that. So they were spraying all kinds of pesticides on those corn and soybeans. All those pesticides are hiding in the soil, right? And now that hemp is pulling and uptaking all those chemicals potentially up into the hemp plant. And if you're not careful then about the sourcing of your CBD, and if you're not careful, especially about how the CBD is extracted from the hemp plant, then there's a significant risk of contamination from chemicals, pesticides, and heavy metals that reside in the soil getting into the hemp and then therefore getting into your CBD extract. So that's why you need to be really cautious about your source and your extraction method when it comes to CBD. More so than we know it's important when it comes to essential oils. It's even more important when it comes to CBD because of the way that hemp plants so aggressively extract things like chemicals and heavy metals from the soils. All right, so let's look at each of these individual methods of extracting CBD, which is essentially what these are: the full spectrum, broad spectrum, isolate, and smart spectrum. So a little handy dandy chart here to help you follow along as I go through each one of these. The first one, and the one that maybe most people have heard of the most, is what we refer to as a full spectrum CBD. So a full spectrum CBD is an extract of the hemp plant, but it includes trace amounts of THC as well as the CBD, as well as other naturally occurring terpenes and compounds. So the way they do this is they cultivate they harvest the CBD or the hemp plant, and they distill the entire hemp plant, and whatever comes out of that distillation process, they bottle that up as an oil and market it as such, as a full spectrum CBD. So that means it's going to have CBD, it's going to have other terpenes, but it is going to have some level of THC in it. Now, in order for it to be classified as hemp, it should be less than 0.3% THC content. So while the THC content should be low, there is risk of having THC in there. Now, some people consider that a bonus. Some people think that that small amount of THC is actually beneficial to our body. Just know that it's in there and that there is potential risk of psychotropic effects. There's potential risk of false positives on drug tests because of having those small trace amounts of THC in there. But you also are getting all these other naturally occurring terpenes, which are simply just different molecules that all help to bind with that ECS. And so I like to think of it as like a symphony, right? Rather than just one note, rather than just the CBD, which only provides one instrument note. And so while that may do really well at that one note, the full spectrum is like a symphony. There's lots of different notes being played, the high notes, low notes, and everything in between, including CBD, THC, and lots of other terpenes. So some benefits to it because of it providing that spectrum of compounds that all interact a little bit differently with our ECS, but you've got the risks associated with having some THC in the product as well. So the next thing, and because of this concern that some people had about having THC in their CBD, they've come up with a process where you can actually chemically remove that THC. And so this leads us to the second category of a broad spectrum CBD. So a broad spectrum CBD is an extract of a hemp plant that includes the terpenes and other compounds, but where the THC specifically has been somehow chemically extracted from the oil. And so with this, you get the benefits of all the other hemp-based terpenes, but you get it with at least with a smaller risk of THC and the side effects from THC. Now, you still have concern about soil contamination with both full spectrum and broad spectrum because you're just distilling down, distilling the whole plant. If there are chemicals and pesticides and heavy metals in there, those have the potential to enter into your finished product with your broad spectrum and full spectrum, because it's only extracting the THC, and there is a risk that it's not extracting all the THC. It's a more sensitive process to remove that THC, and so there's not a guarantee that the THC has been removed completely, although it should be a lower level of THC in a broad spectrum. And so that leads us to the third category, which would be referred to as a CBD isolate. And a CBD isolate, instead of it starts with a broad spectrum or full spectrum CBD oil that has everything in it, but then it goes through a very specific process that extracts out only the CBD from everything else. And the result is that you get this pure CBD crystalline powder. So it's basically a white powder that is pure CBD. And then what they will typically have to do is add that back into some type of carrier oil. They can use a hemp oil, they can use a coconut oil. Anything that's a fatty oil is a carrier for that crystalline powder to basically dissolve that crystalline CBD powder. So with this, you get very, very little risk, essentially no risk of any kind of THC, no risk of the metals and contamination from pesticides and chemicals, because it extracts only the CBD, and it's a very specific chemical process that basically leaves everything else behind and just takes that CBD out of the hemp oil. So you get the benefits of only having CBD without those side effects. The problem is it doesn't have any of the terpenes. It doesn't have any of those other notes that provide the symphony that help to interact with our ECS. It only is that one note, one molecule, and one molecule only, and that's that CBD molecule that we looked at earlier. And so while there's benefits to the CBD isolate form, there's the negatives. The trade-off is that you'll lose those other terpenes that have some very positive effects on the ECS when you take the CBD oil. And so that leads us to the fourth category, which is what's referred to as a smart spectrum CBD. And really the reality is that the smart spectrum, it combines the best attributes of the broad spectrum and the isolate varieties together. So what they do is they take a pure CBD isolate as a starting point, and then they combine it with pure essential oils, and those oils then provide the terpenes and that symphony of notes that helps your ECS to respond even better by providing not just one molecule, but a spectrum of terpene molecules as well as the CBD molecules all in one thing that helps to interact better with your ECS and provide enhanced benefit and efficacy for the CBD. So you get all the benefits of a terpene-rich CBD, but you get that without the risk of contamination from THC and chemicals and other heavy metals. So that's the basis, the four main categories of CBD. And you probably can tell which one I'm a little bit biased towards, which one I think is the best option out there in terms of with the best trade-offs in terms of avoiding any potential contamination, but getting some of those diversity of terpene notes. So that leads us to our next question, and how can I get started? So this is where I'm going to share with you specifically my recommendation for the best one out there, which is that.
I was born and bred in Angeles. It used to be a fantastic.
All right. Sorry, I had some sound coming over. There we go. Okay, so how can I get started with CBD? Well, currently the only smart spectrum variety of CBD out there in the market today is Nature's Ultra CBD that produced by Young Living is the only one out there on the market today. So the only one that's come up with this idea of taking only the pure crystalline CBD and then adding in your essential oils to that and packaging together is one thing, what we refer to as smart spectrum. The only one doing that right now is Nature's Ultra by Young Living. So it's available in 3 different formats. You can get it as a muscle rub, as an oil with a dropper, and then as a roll-on. We're going to take a look. I'll do a quick unboxing of this so you guys can see what is included, what each of those products look like. So you can buy all those individually, or there are options where you can buy a sampling of all 3 of those, the muscle rub, the oil with the dropper, and the roll-on, all as a part of one package, what we call a starter kit. There's a couple different options on those. Just want to say though, a couple other things. The benefit of the Nature's Ultra, in addition to being the smart spectrum, is that all the systems and processes that go into making and producing the very, very best essential oils in the world. And if you're not familiar with Young Living, I really encourage you to watch one of our previous classes we've done on this about why Young Living is set apart. And it comes down to their processes for growing and cultivating their plants and turning them into oils is beyond what any other company out there is doing. They have the seed to seal commitment, which governs how they extract and cultivate and harvest, and all these different elements of the process is under the control of Young Living, and they do such a good job of it. They've been in business for 25 years. Nature's Ultra was one of the very first, once CBD became legalized, was one of the very first ones to start doing this. They're very, very particular about following the strict standards that Young Living follows. That's why the two found each other. Nature's Ultra was actually its own company before Young Living bought that company, and because that Nature's Ultra was already doing such an amazing job, and so it just made perfect sense to combine the best CBD in the world with the best essential oils in the world and sell it in one product. But if you need more info on what sets Young Living essential oils apart from others, I'd highly encourage you to go back and watch one of our other classes so you can see more about the differences there. But just know that when it comes to Nature's Ultra, all the same seed to seal commitment that those of you who are familiar with Young Living, all those same things apply to Nature's Ultra CBD, all the way down to really being careful about the soil. In fact, that's where I got this information about the soil, was from talking to people from Nature's Ultra. They purposely located their farm in Colorado so they could get soil that they knew hadn't been heavily farmed in the past. They're at a very high elevation because of the fact they can't use any pesticides on the plants, because those plants will just soak that pesticide right up and then it gets into your CBD. So they purposely located it at high elevation in Colorado because there's much fewer insects and pests at that higher elevation. So they don't need to use pesticides. Whereas if you were to grow that anywhere else, like down the street from me, I guarantee you they've got pest problems and probably have to treat that with some kind of pesticide because of the amount of insects and all that we have here in Indiana. So let's go ahead and talk about the starter kit options here. and I'll walk you through that. So the starter kit, when you get one of these from Young Living and Nature's Ultra, it comes in this beautiful box, really cool looking. And what you get in there is a sampling of 3 of those products. So we talked about how it's available as a joint in muscle balm, it's available as the oil with the dropper, and it's available as the roll-on. And so I would love, this is a great time, and I apologize, I've not been paying attention to the chat, and I know Jody is, and so I assume she's going to yell at me if there's anything I need to pay attention to, and we'll do some Q&A at the end. But I would love, as you guys, as I talk about each one of these in the kit individually, I would love to get your guys's experience. What have you used each of these for? As I talk about each one, what are some of the benefits you've seen? How are you enjoying your use of each of these products as I go through each of these and open this up? And so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the slide there just so you can see this better. We'll talk about each one of these. So the first one I want to talk about is the CBD oil. And this is the oil with the dropper. So it comes in a 1 fluid ounce bottle. I'm trying to open that up with a dropper on the end of it. Each dropper holds 1 milliliter. And so in terms of dosing on this, a lot of people ask, well, how much CBD should I be using? Well, it partly depends on the strength that you're getting. So this particular one is available in either a 500 milligram or 1,000 milligram CBD. What that refers to is it's the total. The 500 milligrams is the total volume of CBD, pure CBD in here. Now, obviously, in a 1 fluid ounce, there is a lot more than 500 milligrams of fluid in here. So the 500 milligrams refers to the amount of CBD in there. So when you jump up to the 1,000 milligram oil, it doesn't mean that it's twice as big. It means that it's twice as concentrated. It's still the same volume in both the 500 and the 1,000. It's just the amount of CBD in that particular. And so it affects the concentration, not the total volume. So this one is available. The oil is available with 3 different oil infusions in it. This is the citrus one. It's also available with mint and with cinnamon. And again, that's to add those terpenes back in, so you're getting the maximum effect from a smart spectrum oil, not just the CBD. And so in terms of how you would use this, I will say that currently the way that the regulatory bodies look at this, it's labeled for topical use officially. Now, before Young Living bought Nature's Ultra had marketed this for internal use, but because of the regulatory spotlight that's been going on with CBD, they changed that. Now they label it for external use. Did they change the formula at all? No, they did not. In fact, you'll still notice that one of the ingredients in this is stevia extract. I don't know if you know, but stevia extract is a sweetener. Last I checked, my skin couldn't really taste stevia, but I'll just let you use your own judgment about that. So what I'd encourage you to do, just like toothpaste is labeled for topical use, put it under your tongue, because that is considered topical use. What you do with it after you let it soak in under your tongue for a while is up to you. For topical use, that qualifies as being topical use, is to place a few drops of this under your tongue, just like toothpaste is for topical use, right? So you can put that in your mouth. They just don't want you to swallow it. So again, available in the 3 different things. Now, why would I choose? How do I know whether to choose the citrus or the mint or the cinnamon? Well, I would think about what would those oils, what body systems would those help support? So I like to think of the mint. Mint, we all know, is great for supporting our digestive system, right? So if you're taking CBD in order to help support your ECS so that it can reach homeostasis and support your digestive system, then the mint one is probably a good choice, because it's got those terpenes in it that are also going to help with supporting your digestive system, right? If you're looking for one that's going to provide some calm and some mood enhancement, like you're dealing with any kind of feelings of mentally and emotionally of needing support there, then the citrus might be a good one, because the citrus is a great oil for just for enhancing your mood. If you are worried about supporting your immune system, then you might look at the cinnamon one, because we know cinnamon has great properties for supporting the immune system. So that's just a quick rundown of how you know whether to pick the mint, the citrus, or the cinnamon. Go look up what each of those oils do on their own, and then apply that to the mix with the CBD to understand what one might be a good option for you. All right, next we're going to look at the CBD muscle rub. This one, I will say, is by far my favorite. I mean, I use the oil dropper on a daily basis, and I notice a difference, but the difference with that is sometimes a little bit slower, right? It's more, I take the CBD oil 1 to 2 times a day. And so it's more about again, helping my ECS get to that state where it's in balance. With the joint and muscle balm though, I tell you what, it is mind blowing how fast this stuff works. You put it on sore muscles, sore joints, anything like that, and you will be blown away. I've had people that were complete skeptics try this and just watch their jaw drop as they just can't believe, like within minutes of putting this on, how much better they feel as a result of putting this on. So what you'll notice when you do put this on, the joint muscle balm, it is a really thick texture to it, kind of like a Vaseline or petroleum jelly. So you'll scoop a little bit out with your finger. Of course, if you're sharing it with a friend, you might use a little mini spoon or something. But for me, I'm the only one who uses it. So I just dig my finger in, and it works great on helping to support my joints and sore muscles. You'll notice right when you put it on, you'll feel that hot and cold sensation. That's because it has menthol in it, which is really just the chemical name for peppermint oil. And they infuse it with a whole array of all natural young living essential oils, which includes camphor, clove, heliochrysum, lemon, peppermint, tea tree, and wintergreen, all in that joint muscle balm. So you'll immediately feel the effects of the wintergreen and the peppermint, and you're going to definitely tell the lasting benefits of the clove and heliochrysum, which have amazing properties. If you don't know what those do, look those up in a good reference manual, because the heliochrysum and clove are amazing oils to add into that, and really gives it a lot of bang for its buck. All right, the next thing, certainly not the least of these though, is that it'll come with this 10 milliliter Calm oil roll-on. And so this is just like Young Living's other 10 mil roll-ons. It has a roller top on the top of there. And this one, again, is available in different strengths. So this one is the regular strength, which is a 300 milligram of CBD in there, in that whole bottle. And what would you use this one for? Well, just what the name says, for helping to promote calm. My story on this one is we had actually picked up our first bottle of this when we were at the Young Living convention in Salt Lake City, Utah, and had not yet opened it. Jody had opened many of the other products that we had picked up, but this one, for some reason, she had stuffed it in her purse and hadn't actually tried it yet. And we were driving back, we tow our 35-foot long travel trailer camper behind our Suburban. It's big, and it's probably not always really safe. We've got like a lot of people, six of us in the car, and our dog and the camper. And we blew a tire on the camper as we were rolling down I-80, and then had to pull over. Metal sparks are flying off the back wheel because the rim is just riding on the interstate. And Jody is freaking out. We had to pull over right there. Couldn't make it all the way to get off on an exit or anything like that. And so it's on the left side of the vehicle, and then we pull over to the right, because I'm in the right lane, because I'm always going slow when I have the camper. And Jody is a little panicked at this point that I have to go out there and like try and figure out how to fix this. And there's cars whizzing by, trucks whizzing by on I-80. And so she suddenly remembered, I have that Calm roll on. And she's like, super worried about me getting out of the car. I get out of the car, but while I'm out, she realized that she had this Calm roll on. And so she gets it out and puts it on while I'm risking my life to protect her. And a couple minutes later, I get back in the car, and she is just completely chill. I was like, what happened to you? She's like, I think it's this Calm roll. She could not believe, like, again, how quickly it works. So yeah, true story. She's vouching for me. And I think she's even chatting about that. So again, I would love to hear your guys' stories. If you have stories like that, where you've used the roll-on, or you've used the muscle rub, you've used the dropper, like what kind of benefits have you seen? Just tell us, so that they don't just think it's, those of you that have used those before, everybody doesn't think, I think this guy's just making these stories up. Not making these up, true stories, and it's pretty amazing. So, all right, so the kit that I just showed you there with those 3 oils is available, like I said, in 2 different strengths. So I'm going to pull back up my slides here so you guys can see this for yourself. So it's available as a regular strength kit. So the regular strength kit will include the 300 milligram roll on, the 500 milligram CBD oil, and then the 300 milligram muscle rub. All three of those together, when you package those together, is $165. Now, is that a good deal? Like, what would these cost if I were to buy these individually? Well, here's the deal. When you buy it as a kit, you actually get the benefit of the kit, including a Young Living membership. So if you're not a Young Living member, then what that means is that you would have to pay retail pricing if you don't get a membership to Young Living. But if you buy this kit, you get the membership included, is included in the kit. So there's no fee to join Young Living as a member. What it does, though, is it gives you member pricing on everything you'll ever order from Young Living, including this kit and everything you order. Later, you will get that at member pricing instead of retail. But if you were to buy these three things, you can go on to Nature's Ultra or Young Living's website and buy these as a retail customer. If you don't want to sign up and don't want a membership, even though the membership is free, if you don't want that, you can do that, but you're going to pay total for all three of those products is $278 if you buy all those individually. So I don't know if you're a math expert, but $165 when it's originally $278 is a really good deal. In fact, it's like 41% off the retail pricing. So that's huge savings. It makes a ton of sense to get all three of these, because I promise you're going to want all three of these. You're not just going to say, well, I just need the calm roll on. Really, all three of them work together, and you will find use for all three of them. So $165 when you buy that regular strength kit. Again, that's compared to the retail pricing on that would be $278 instead of $165. And then the next option is the extra strength kit. So that steps you up to the 600 milligram roll on, 1,000 milligram of the muscle rub, and a 600 milligram of the muscle rub, and 1,000 milligram of the CBD oil. And so similar story on the pricing. That all goes for $250. If you were to buy all those three individually at retail pricing, you'd be looking at $470 for all three of those. Again, I'll do the math for you. That's 47% off what you'd pay retail pricing buying them all individually as opposed to buying them with a kit. And if you buy them individually retail, again, you don't get a Young Living membership, so you don't get to take advantage of any of the other Young Living products, all the essential oils, the supplements, the vitamins, all the skincare and hair care and products, all the makeup, all that stuff. You don't get any of the benefits of that if you just buy the retail. So that's why I just strongly encourage everybody who's thinking about trying CBD, just go ahead and get the starter kit so you try all three forms of it, and you can see which one you like best. And then if from there on, if you're like, you know what, I use this a little bit, but I don't use it very often. But I do need to buy the CBD oil on a monthly basis, because I noticed a huge difference when I was taking that every day, or maybe you go to every other month on it, whatever it is. By getting that kit, you'll know which of those three work the best for you, and you'll get those at the best price with a Young Living membership. Now, if you're already a Young Living member, then you can go purchase any of the CBD products, just like you would purchase any other Young Living products. Initially, when they started merging with Nature's Ultra, you had to go to a separate site, and it was kind of a pain. No longer is that the case. So if you're a Young Living member, just like you would order any other Young Living products, log into your virtual office, and you can even just type in CBD in the product search. Those products will come up, and you'll have access to the member pricing on those, which again, even with the member pricing, it's still not as good of a deal as getting this as a starter kit, not by any means. So if you're a Young Living member, like I said, super easy to order this. Just go into the office just like you would order any other Young Living product, and put it on your Essential Rewards order or your quick order, either one, and it's super easy to order. Now, if you're not a Young Living member, it's still really easy to take advantage of. I don't want the membership to scare you away. It's easier than getting a Sam's Club or a Costco membership. It really is. They don't make you stand there to get your picture taken awkwardly in the store or anything like that. All you have to do is go to youngliving.com, and at the very top of that, you're going to see a button at the top that says Become a Member. And then right under step 1, as you scroll down, it has a couple steps to becoming a member. Right under step 1, it's going to show you that their featured premium starter kit, but there's a button right above that, right under the step 1, that says other premium kits. So just click on that other premium kits, and then you'll see a couple other options, the Thieves kit, and you'll see the two CBD kits, the regular strength option and the extra strength option. So just select whichever of those 2 kits you're interested in, and go through and just click through to get to the checkout. They will ask you for a referral number, who shared Young Living with you. So for that, you're just going to go back to whoever invited you onto this call, go back to them and say, hey, I'm interested in getting started. I need some kind of referral number. Help me out with this. And they'll give you their referral number. They'll also walk you through and help you if you do have any challenges with navigating the site. They'll walk you through all that. Now, if Jody or I invited you to this, or you just randomly opened Zoom and typed in a random meeting number, and you're so enthralled by this that you want to start and sign up with Young Living, well, then you can use our number. Jody and my number is 970238. So use that if we invited you, or you don't have somebody that invited you that has their own number that they can give you. Again, if you have any questions, always reach out to us, reach out to whoever invited you to this call. They will walk you through every step of the way, make it super easy for you, I promise. So with that, you guys all hung on until now because you know that we're giving some stuff away. And Jody's putting notes all over my desk. I've got Post-it notes littering my desk, and I'm trying to figure out which one. Oh, some of these are questions. We'll get to the questions. Let's do the giveaway, and then I will stick around for anybody who wants to do the Q&A. But if you just want to take your giveaway and run and not stick around for the Q&A, you can do that. All right, so you want to help me with these? Help me interpret your handwriting here.
I moved a chicken coop.
You moved a chicken coop.
We're
We're giving away a chicken coop.
those are our giveaway winners because I
Okay.
found extra CBDs.
All right, and so what are we giving away? We are going to give away these tiny, cute little tins of the muscle rub. 30 milligrams of CBD in each one of these. In case you're wondering, no, they're not huge. They are just to give you a size perspective. So there's, and I'm going to go ahead and hide this now because I don't think we need that anymore. All right, so here's the samples that we're giving away. It's just enough to make you realize how fantastically awesome this muscle rub is. And then you're going to want the bigger one after that, I promise. So our giveaways, I've got 7 of these. And we just happen to have 7 winners. No, I have 8 winners on here, Jode, and I only have 7 of these.
Oh, I have more.
You have more? Okay. So we've got 8 winners that are going to go home tonight. Well, you're not really going to go home. 8 winners that we are going to send you one of these samples of CBD. So I feel like we need a big drum roll. Everybody do a drum roll at home. All right, so our first winner of the CBD sample is going to Gail Burkhart. Where is Gail? I can only see so many screens here. Is she on here? Are you helping find Gail, Joan? All right, so Gail, you are the winner. There's a lot of faces on here and I'm not seeing you right now, but congratulations. Gail is our first winner of this. Our next winner, again, all these are the same. Another thing of the muscle rub is Shelly Guernsey. Shelly Guernsey. I feel like everybody should unmute here and just applaud because like you don't need to just hear me. So everybody unmute and then everybody can clap and applaud, seriously. Our next of this one is Joe DeGraaf. Joe DeGraaf. I may not be pronouncing that right. Joe DeGraaf. And next is Jessica Pletcher. Jessica Pletcher. Again, I'm so sorry. Correct me. You can unmute and tell me the correct way to pronounce it if I mispronounce it. So Jessica Pletcher, congrats to you. Next is Kim Grindine. Kim is a winner tonight. Round of applause for Kim. Woohoo! And next is Jan Largent is our next winner. That's Jan. All right, and 2 more. Is everybody like on pins and needles wondering if you're one of the last 2 winners? Well, if your name is Kim Tuck, then you are one of our winners. Kim, winner, winner, chicken dinner on that one. And last but not least, Wanda Brown is our last giveaway winner. So congrats to everybody that got us. If you didn't, hey, yourself, or you're gonna have to make friends with somebody who has a sample and get a sample of it to try. But I promise you won't be disappointed. And if you are, Young Living has a great return policy, even though I don't think I've ever had anybody really ever have to use it because everybody loves everything. All right. So let's get to Q&A. So that I will say that ends the official thing. I am happy to stick around. Jody has written out some of the questions on Post-it notes that I presume came in the chat. And so I'm going to hang around as long as it takes to answer some of these questions. And but if you got to go and you want to jump off here, you are totally fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you get off now. So the first question is, where do you apply Calm for max benefit? Well, that's a great question. Two ways that the Calm is going to work. One is that it's got oils in there that are going to help in terms of you smelling those oils and those oils affecting your emotions and affecting the part of your brain that deals with your memory and your emotions. So I would suggest that the best way to put this, but the other way it works, I should say, the other way it works is by the CBD gets onto your skin and then gets absorbed into your bloodstream through your fat tissue in your skin. And so the maximum benefit you're going to get with this is in a place where you can both apply it to skin where it's going to absorb readily as well as smell it. So that might be putting it on your wrist so that you can then smell your wrist. It could even be putting a little bit underneath your nose so you absorb it there. Really no wrong place to put it, but I would just encourage you to not like put it somewhere where you're not going to smell it, because I think part of the benefit of the Calm one is that not only does the CBD work by absorbing through your skin, but also you're going to get the benefits of the aroma of the oils that they include in the Calm. Okay, somebody else, their question was that they are interested in trying this. What strength would you recommend? Well, the whole thing about what strength to recommend is based upon what your particular body size is and how severe your condition is. So the larger you are, the more strength you're going to need. So somebody, that weighs 300 pounds is going to need a much higher strength CBD than somebody that weighs 150 pounds. It's just a matter of dilution, right? How much you need is dependent on your body size and your severity. So if you're a smaller person and your conditions are mild to moderate, then you're going to do fine with the regular strength. If you're a really big person and you have more severe or you have a more severe condition, then you might need to jump up to the extra strength. Now, the extra strength is a much better value than the regular strength. In terms of the price per CBD content, you're getting a much better deal on the high strength one. So, but it is a much more expensive product to buy initially. So you can buy the higher strength and just use a little bit less of it, be a little more judicious with how much you use, and you get a better value out of doing it that way. Some people would rather buy the regular strength though and be able to take easily measure a half a dropper and just take the whole half dropper. But if you want to just go with extra strength and only use 3 or 4 drops, there's really not, it's really a trade-off in terms of whether you want to spend more upfront and get a better value out of it, or whether you want to spend less and have to use a little bit more, is really what it comes down to when it comes to extra strength or not. Let me look at this next question here. How does CBD compare to Panaway? That's a good question. I like the CBD much better. I still use Panaway. I try and be judicious with my CBD muscle rub. I use the CBD muscle rub about 2 times a day, sometimes 3. And I will often use Panaway in between there, or even layer it underneath. So I will put the Panaway on and then apply the CBD muscle rub on top of that. So whether it works better or worse, how does it compare to CBD? I find that it's far more effective than Panaway, but I also feel like I can use Panaway more frequently. So oftentimes I'll do the CBD 2 to 3 times a day, and then I'm doing the Panaway a lot more than that, 6 or 7, 8 times a day on the Panaway that I'm applying that. So that's how I compare them, is that I don't mind using the Panaway more frequently than the CBD. CBD, price-wise, the CBD is more expensive than the Panaway. So if the Panaway works for you, then you can go with that. But the CBD, I found it to be far more effective, although a little more expensive. Okay, how to use with dog. How to use it. So I'm interpreting Jody's questions here. How to use, I thought that said with day, how to use with day. And I'm like, what is, oh, dog. How to use with your dog. So these are just like you would apply them to yourself. Honestly, I don't know that the CBD muscle rub, I haven't talked to anybody that's used that on their dog. We have heard of people getting great results out of using the CBD oil with their dog. And our dog will just lick the stuff right up. She loves the flavor and taste of the CBD. Heard of a lot of people, the main reason for using that I've heard from people is for helping their dog with calmness and with anxiety. And so I think the calm roll on would work too. If your dog, if you would roll a little bit on your hands and then pet that on your dog, that we've seen great results from that. Or giving them the CBD oil orally, administering them with that would also be good. Okay. When would you use CBD versus Copaiba? Well, I don't know why you have to choose. I don't know why it's CBD or Copaiba. How about CBD and Copaiba? Because they have different thing. Again, you're looking to maximize the number of terpenes that you're introducing to the ECS. The more terpenes you get, right, the better off you are, because it creates that symphony. So I wouldn't say pick one or the other. I would say try both of them. I use Copaiba a lot as well as the CBD. So I don't necessarily feel like I need to choose one over the other. CBD for, her handwriting is getting really messy on this one. Oh, she answered. She said, I answered this one. How do you know if you need CBD? That's a good question. Well, most people that go looking for CBD know they need it because everything else they've tried isn't really working for them, right? They've tried essential oils, they've tried over-the-counter medications, they've tried lots of things, and whatever it is that they're struggling with isn't working for them. Now, I've also heard of people who are a little more proactive instead of reactive and think, hey, I'm going to support my ECS with small amounts of CBD because I know that that's going to set me up for success down the road. I may not be struggling with anything huge right now, but if I supplement with very mild amounts of CBD, then maybe I'm going to see better benefits in my ECS. So I've seen both. Most often though, we're all guilty of this, right? We tend to react to our health rather than be proactive. And so most people, how they know they need CBD is because something is out of whack in their body. Some system is out of balance, and the CBD is what will help bring those systems back into balance. So that's how I would advise you to know whether you need CBD or not. And the next question is, are there interactions using CBD along with other medications? That is a good question. I am not a pharmacist, so I would like to say that no, but I'm going to caveat it with, I don't think there are, but there's a lot of medications out there, and I don't know that anybody can know for sure without a lot of study and research into this. If you're on a medication, then I would talk to your doctor or healthcare professional about it and get their opinion on it. I wouldn't probably go off of my advice because I don't have the expertise in that to know. I know a lot of people that take CBD along with medication, so I know it can be done. I just don't know every interaction that's potentially out there. So that's something where I would definitely talk to a pharmacist or a doctor and get their opinion on it, dig in and do a little bit of your own research on it as well to figure out whether that's right for you or not with taking other medications. That's it. Jode, any other questions that I'm missing? What's that? Is that it? All right. And if it's not it, then you've got a way to contact us, because I just saw Jody put in the chat there.
Is CBD safe for children? Do you know anyone with a child with spastic cerebral palsy who uses it?
I did. So I don't know if you guys could hear that question because I think she was muted. So she's asking about, is it safe for children to use, and then specifically with specific conditions. So I'm not going to get into the specific conditions with a particular child, but is it safe for children to use? Absolutely. Now, what I will say is, again, CBD, the amount you want to take is based upon your body weight. So if you're talking about a 50 or 60 pound child, I would start really, really small on the dosing, like probably on the order of a drop or two of the regular strength CBD oil, because of the fact that they're much smaller bodies, they're going to be much more. They don't need as much. They're going to be much more reactive to CBD. So I know lots of people. We use it on our kids. We give our kids CBD regularly for different things, and have never seen any hint of any kind of adverse effect. And I'm not aware of any adverse effects. Again, my recommendation though would be to start very small, and then you can always build up a little bit. If you're not seeing any difference from a drop or two, then you can go up a little bit more than that, right? And just see how they react to it, and just pay attention. Use your own intuition and wisdom on that. Do your own research. But absolutely know lots of people that use it on their kids very effectively, very safely. So I wouldn't hesitate at all to give it to my kids. In fact,
Book
I do.
recommendations.
Oh, book recommendations. Yes. So if you want to know more, I know this class was hopefully very informative, but I can only do it so much justice in a little over an hour. So if you want to know more about CBD, 2 books I'd recommend. If you like Cliff Notes versions, if you're not really into reading long books, then this is the book for you. All right, CBD Plant-Based Wellness by Cody Lynn Kaler. Look at that. You could read that like in an hour sitting there. It's basically a long pamphlet is what it is. So lots of pictures, and very, very well written in terms of helping explain everything that I talked about today and even more. Very well explained in this book. It's a great source if you're just looking for just a little bit more information about CBD beyond what we talked about tonight. If you like all the information and you're like, give me all the info, then this is the book for you. Definitely recommend this one. The Power of CBD and Essential Oils. So this one is going to talk specifically about what's so amazing about combining CBD with essential oils in the smart spectrum format that I talked about. This one is by Dr. Olivier Wanker. He is a MD physician, and a super smart guy. This book is so well done in terms of providing all the details on the chemistry and the history and the regulations. It is the best, most thorough book that I have seen on CBD. Highly recommend this. Of course, he goes by Dr. Ollie. He is a Young Living member, and has done so much to promote the science and understanding of CBD and essential oils. So I can't say enough about this book. And even though he's an MD and a wicked smart guy, he's hilarious and really funny. So you will enjoy his humor that comes through in this book, as well as the really, really good information. And Jody's posting the links for how you can get those books in the chat. growinghealthyhomes.com for the CBD booklet by Cody Kaler. And she's going to post that link to that other one in just a moment, right?
Yes. Your other question was pregnancy and nursing.
And that one I am going to turn, the next question is going to Jody because she's the expert on that. Okay, so the question is about pregnant nursing. I'm trying to get her to answer it. Can you take it while you're pregnant and nursing? I've never been pregnant, nor have I nursed, so I do not know the answer to that question. And I thought Jody would know it, but it's in the book somewhere. I do remember him discussing it in here. I just don't remember exactly what he said, and I don't want to misspeak on that. So,
is there photosensitive concerns for topical use?
not with CBD particularly, although you would have to be careful. Oh, so I keep forgetting it. You guys can't hear her question going to me. So somebody asked, is there concerns for photosensitivity with topical use, same as oils? So with the CBD specifically, no. But if you're going to use this citrus oil topically, then I would worry about that. Now, there's not, because any citrus oils can be photosensitive, make your skin photosensitive. As far as the joint muscle balm, not enough, if any. I don't remember that there's any citrus oils off the top of my head in there. I know I've used the joint muscle balm many, many, many times, and I burn like crazy, and I've used that and then gone right out in the sun, and I've never had an issue with that causing me to be photosensitive whatsoever. Any other questions, Jode? All right. Well, that's it. We're going to wrap up here. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this and for all the great questions. I would just encourage you, if somehow I missed a question, didn't get to you, would love for you to hit us up on email or on text, ask us your questions, or do your own research, because that's really what we're all about, is empowering you with information. If anything I said, you're like, that didn't sound right, well, then do your own research, dig into it. Don't be afraid to start sifting through the information that's out there, and answers are there. So don't take my word for it. Dig in for yourself, do the research, and we're here if you have any questions and want help at any point along the way. So thank you guys for joining us. Have a great night and enjoy your CBD.